Most men think they would notice it instantly. A clear rejection, a cold no, something obvious. But that's not how it really works. The truth is quieter and far more dangerous. Disinterest doesn't shout, it whispers. It hides in small behaviors, subtle patterns, mixed signals that keep you stuck in second-guessing yourself. And that's exactly why so many men miss the signs right in front of them. In this video, you'll see 07 clear signs she doesn't like you and why you must leave. The kind most guys ignore until it's too late. Because once you understand these 07 clear signs she doesn't like you and why you must leave, you stop wasting time, energy, and self-respect on the wrong situations. So before we start, subscribe to the channel. This is where men come to understand female psychology without filters, without lies, just real insight that actually works. And we're on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers, so if you're serious about leveling up, be part of it. Topic 1. She's emotionally polite, but never curious about you. He thinks everything's going well. After all, she replies. She doesn't ignore him. She's not rude. She doesn't create conflict. But there's a nearly invisible detail that changes everything. She never asks anything back. The conversation happens, sure, but it feels one-sided, like he's always pulling the thread while she just holds the other end. And at first this goes unnoticed, because for many men, any response already feels like a good sign. But in reality, that's just emotional politeness, not real interest. Over time, this starts to feel heavy, even if he can't quite explain why. He talks about his day, shares something personal, brings up an idea, and she responds with something short, generic, without going deeper. There's no genuine curiosity. No "what about you?" No real effort to understand who he is. It's like talking to someone who's there, but not actually engaged. A classic example is when he shares something meaningful and she just switches the topic. Subtle, almost unnoticeable, but very telling. An experienced mentor would say something simple, yet uncomfortable. When someone is interested, curiosity shows up naturally. They want to know more. They ask questions. They engage. They build bridges. When that doesn't happen, it's not shyness. It's lack of interest. And the most dangerous part is that many men keep investing, thinking they need to earn that attention. But while he's trying to prove his value, she has already decided, silently, that she's not emotionally available for him. And the next signs start to make that even clearer. Topic 2. Her energy changes around you, but she thinks you don't notice at first. He might even doubt himself. But something feels off. When he gets close, her energy shifts, and it's not subtle if you're paying attention. Eye smile tightens, eye contact drops, her body closes off just a bit. It's not outright rejection. Nobody's being rude. But there's also none of that natural ease you feel when someone is comfortable. It's like unconsciously, she's creating distance, even while standing right there. And here's something most men don't realize. Real attraction doesn't need to be analyzed. You feel it. When a woman is into you, her body cooperates. She leans in, holds eye contact, laughs more easily, responds with presence. But when the interest isn't there, her body starts to tell on her before her words do. A classic example is when he says something and she replies while looking at her phone. When her body is angled away, like she's already halfway out of the interaction. A more experienced observer would say something a bit uncomfortable. People can control what they say, but they rarely fully control how they behave, and that's where many men get it wrong. They listen to the words but ignore the signals. They'd rather believe the maybe than face the discomfort of a probably not. But as this keeps happening, a pattern starts to form. And that pattern connects directly to how she treats him when convenience comes into play. Topic 3. She keeps you in convenience mode. At some point, if he really pays attention, he'll notice a pattern. She shows up, but never consistently. The messages come at specific times. The invitations happen when it's convenient for her, and suddenly, she disappears without much explanation. It's not lack of time, it's lack of priority, but it's subtle enough to confuse him, because technically, she's still there. And that's exactly what keeps so many men stuck in this dynamic. The problem is, he starts adapting without realizing it. Adjusts his schedule, replies quickly, accepts last-minute plans, always trying to fit her into his life while she never does the same. A classic example. She cancels last minute, then shows up days later like nothing happened, and he accepts it. Or she only reaches out when she's bored, looking for a bit of attention, and he mistakes that for interest. In reality, he's not being chosen, he's being used as an available option. A more direct mentor would put it bluntly: if someone truly wants you, they make time, not excuses. Real interest creates consistency, intention, presence. When everything depends on her convenience, it means he's holding a temporary spot, not a real place. And the more he accepts that role, the harder it becomes to step out of it, especially when conversations already start to feel like effort instead of something that flows naturally. Topic 4. Conversations feel like work, not flow. At some point, he starts to feel it, even if he won't admit it. Talking to her has become work. There's no ease, no rhythm, none of that natural back and forth you get when two people are actually connected. He thinks about what to say, tries to be interesting, keeps the conversation alive. And still, everything feels kind of forced. It's like trying to carry a conversation alone, while the other side just throws back short, neutral responses. And the weird part? At first he thinks the problem is him. But over time, it becomes clear it's not a lack of skill, it's a lack of reciprocity. When there's real interest, conversation flows almost effortlessly. One idea leads to another, one question opens the next, and time flies by. But when only one side is investing, it starts to feel like a job. It's a simple example. He sends something thoughtful or funny, gets a haha nice or just an emoji. That's not mystery or shyness, that's disinterest disguised as a response. A sharper perspective sees something important. Communication reflects emotional investment. When someone cares, they participate, they build, they contribute. When they don't, they do the bare minimum to avoid seeming rude. And it's exactly that bare minimum that traps so many men, because it's not a clear rejection, but it's also not real connection. And while he's trying to sustain something that doesn't flow, another barrier is quietly forming, one that blocks any deeper connection from happening. Topic 5. She avoids any form of emotional or physical escalation. If he looks closer, he'll notice something like an invisible ceiling in the interaction. No matter how much time passes, nothing evolves. The conversations stay on the surface, the dates don't deepen, and any attempt to create a more meaningful moment just doesn't happen. There's no conflict, no direct rejection, just constant stagnation. It's like everything is always almost. And this becomes even clearer in the details. He tries to bring up something more personal, something emotional, and she responds in a generic way or shifts the topic. On a date, there's no openness to physical closeness, a natural touch, a more intimate vibe. Everything feels subtly blocked. Okay, a classic example. The date ends exactly how it started. No progression, no tension, no deeper connection. And he walks away feeling like something is missing but can't quite explain what. An experienced mentor would see this clearly. When there's interest, there's movement. Things evolve naturally, without forcing it. But when there's always a barrier, emotional or physical, that's not taking it slow, that's lack of desire to go further. The most dangerous part is that many men interpret this as I just need to try harder, when in reality, they're ignoring a silent boundary. And interestingly enough, this same pattern often shifts, but only when he starts pulling away. Topic 6. She shows interest, but only when she's losing you. This is the kind of situation that confuses the most and traps the most. Because when he starts pulling away, replying slower, stopping the effort, focusing on his own life, something interesting happens. She comes back. More attentive, more present, even a bit more interested. And in that moment, he thinks, now it's happening. But as soon as he leans back in, everything cools off again. And the cycle repeats. The problem is this creates a false sense of hope. He believes that if he just does it right, she'll stay that way. But what's really happening isn't genuine attraction. It's a reaction to losing attention. Very common example. He goes quiet for a few days, and she suddenly texts, "You disappeared," or starts a conversation out of nowhere. But after a few days of interaction, she goes right back to being distant. That's not consistency. That's subtle emotional control. A more strategic view understands this. Real interest is consistent, not conditional. When someone only shows attention when they feel like they're losing you, that's not connection. That's access management. And the more he plays into this, the more predictable he becomes. Someone who always comes back when given a little attention. But deep down, this starts creating a feeling that's hard to ignore. A constant doubt that slowly eats away at his confidence in the situation. Topic 7. You feel confused more than confident. Deep down, he already feels it, but avoids facing it. Because when a woman truly likes a man, there's a very clear feeling, calm. Doesn't need to decode signals all the time, doesn't need to analyze every message or behavior, because the connection brings clarity, not doubt. But when what he feels most is confusion, insecurity, that constant need to figure out what's going on, that already says more than anything she's actually said. And this shows up in everyday behavior. He rereads conversations, tries to interpret responses, asks friends what they think, creates theories to justify her actions. One day she seems interested, the next she's distant. One day she shows attention, the next she disappears. And he gets stuck in this emotional back and forth, trying to find logic where there's only inconsistency. His mind turns mixed signals into hope, but his gut knows something's off. A more direct mentor would say it plainly. When the interest is real, it doesn't create constant doubt. Sure, there can be moments of uncertainty, but not a continuous pattern of confusion. And when a man reaches this point, questioning everything, trying to understand what should feel natural, maybe the problem isn't lack of effort, but holding on to something that was never truly mutual. And this is exactly where a decision most men avoid finally shows up. Conclusion. After all of this, the real question isn't about her, it's about you. How many times have you felt these signs and chose to ignore them? How many times have you tried to push through, explain things, give it one more shot, even when deep down you knew something wasn't right? Because the truth is simple, even if it's uncomfortable. Recognizing the signs is easy. What's hard is having the courage to act on them. That's exactly what separates a man who respects himself from a man who's constantly chasing validation. Now, take a second and be honest. Are you in a situation where there's clarity or confusion? Do you feel valued or just tolerated? Are you building something real, or just filling a temporary space in someone's life? These questions might sting, but they're the ones that put you back in control. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about making someone like you. It's about choosing not to stay where you're clearly not chosen. So from this point on, what's your move? Keep investing in something that isn't growing, or start walking away from what doesn't value you. Drop a comment below. I actually want to hear your thoughts. If this content hit home for you, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This is where we keep it real, no illusions, helping you see what most men take years to understand.